Jealousy rarely announces itself. It doesn't walk into the room and say what it is. It doesn't show up as something obvious or dramatic. It shows up quietly, dressed as a joke, disguised as concern, hiding inside a compliment that somehow leaves you feeling worse than before. And the people who feel it most rarely admit it, not even to themselves. Because jealousy is one of the most socially unacceptable emotions a person can have. It implies inadequacy. It implies that someone else's success feels like a threat to your own. And most people would rather do almost anything than admit that's what they're feeling. So instead, they do other things. And if you know what to look for, those other things are surprisingly readable. Today, we're going to talk about 5 subtle signs that someone in your life is secretly jealous of you. Not the obvious kind. The kind that hides so well you've probably questioned your own perception more than once. Sign number 1. They downplay your wins without quite dismissing them. This is the most common sign, and the hardest to call out, because it's so perfectly calibrated. It doesn't sound like criticism. It doesn't sound like they're being negative. It sounds almost supportive. But there's something in it that consistently takes the air out of your good news. You get the promotion. They say, "Oh, that's great. Though I heard that department is really stressful." You finish something you're proud of. They say, "Good for you. It must be nice to have that kind of time." You share exciting news. They listen, nod, and then pivot immediately to something about themselves. Psychologists call this minimization, and it serves a very specific function. It allows the jealous person to process their own discomfort about your success without ever having to acknowledge that discomfort directly. The tell is in the consistency. One comment might be nothing. But if every single piece of good news you share comes back slightly deflated, that's a pattern. And patterns tell you things that individual moments don't. Sign number 2. They give backhanded compliments. You know the ones. "You look so good. I could never pull that off with my body type. You're so brave for doing that. I would be too worried about what people think. That was really impressive, especially given your background." On the surface, these sound like compliments. Technically, they contain positive words. But they land wrong, every single time. And you walk away feeling vaguely diminished rather than genuinely seen. This is not accidental. The backhanded compliment is one of the most sophisticated expressions of covert jealousy because it gives the person plausible deniability. If you react to it, you're being oversensitive. If you call it out, you look ungrateful. They said something nice after all. But what they actually did was find a way to acknowledge your strength while simultaneously attaching a qualifier that keeps you just slightly below them in the interaction. Your success is acknowledged and immediately contextualized in a way that diminishes it. Trust how it lands, not what it technically said. Sign number 3. They become distant or cold exactly when things are going well for you. This one is particularly painful because it happens during the moments when you most want to share your happiness with the people you care about. You get good news and reach out, and they're suddenly hard to get hold of. You have a win and want to celebrate, and they're inexplicably busy. You're in a good period of your life, and something in the friendship or relationship quietly cools. The jealous person is not consciously deciding to pull away. Usually, they're not even aware they're doing it. But your good fortune is activating something painful in them. A comparison, a gap between where you are and where they are. A reminder of something they want and don't have. And proximity to you during your good season becomes genuinely uncomfortable for them. So they create distance. And when you notice it and say something, they usually have a perfectly reasonable explanation that has nothing to do with you. And maybe they even believe it. Sign number 4. They root for you, but only up to a point. This is the subtlest sign of all, and the one that takes the longest to see clearly. Because on the surface, this person seems supportive. They're there for you when things are hard. They show up when you're struggling. They're genuinely good to you during difficult seasons. But then something shifts when you start to succeed. The support that was so present when you were below them or beside them quietly evaporates when you move ahead. The encouragement that flowed so freely when your dreams were still just dreams becomes noticeably thinner when those dreams start coming true. Psychologists call this contingent support. Support that is available as long as the power dynamic remains comfortable. It's not fake exactly. The care is real, but it has an invisible ceiling. And once you hit that ceiling, the dynamic changes. You'll feel it before you can explain it. A shift in tone, a new subtle edge to their humor. The encouragement that used to come easily now requiring something from you. A problem to solve, a vulnerability to reassure them with, evidence that you still need them somehow. Pay attention to whether someone supports your potential or your success. Those are two different things. Sign number 5. They talk about you differently to other people. This one you often don't find out about directly. You hear it second-hand. Or you notice it in the way mutual friends start to treat you slightly differently. A subtle shift in how they see you that seems to have no origin point you can identify. Jealous people rarely criticize you to your face, but they are often remarkably willing to raise doubts about you behind your back. They don't need to say anything overtly negative. A well-placed question is enough. Are you sure she actually did that herself? That seems unlike him, doesn't it? I'm just a little worried about them. Between us, they plant seeds, not because they're evil, but because making you slightly smaller in other people's perception makes the gap between you and them feel more manageable. It's not about hurting you. It's about surviving the discomfort of watching you succeed. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. The goal is not to become paranoid. Most people are not secretly jealous of you, and seeing jealousy everywhere is its own kind of distortion. The goal is clarity, because when you can recognize these patterns for what they are, not as evidence that something is wrong with you or your success, but as information about someone else's inner landscape, you stop taking them personally. Someone's jealousy is not a verdict on your worth. It's a window into their pain. And understanding that, really understanding it, changes everything about how you carry yourself through it. If one of these 5 signs hit closer to home than you expected, you already know which relationship it's pointing at.